I signed up to foster one child. When I went to pick her up, I saw all these little children come out of this van. I remember asking the caseworker, I was like, okay, which one is mine? And she points to this 2-year-old little girl. And actually 75% of siblings that enter foster care are separated the first evening that they come into care, or that first day. I fought for 9 months, and one by one, they started moving in with me. And I went from just the 2-year-old little girl to then I got her older brother, her little sister, I got their little brother, and then 3 weeks later, I got a baby that was 4 months old. All biological siblings. And so that's why I decided to start Foster and Heart.
Hey there, welcome to Season 5 of Stories Unveiled, the podcast where we believe every story matters because every story reveals the faithfulness of God. Here we have honest conversations about the ordinary moments, the unexpected detours, and the life-altering heartbreaks that shape us. Each episode, our guests courageously share their journey, reminding us that even our messiest seasons, Jesus is present and at work. Together, we'll hold hardship in one hand and hope in the other as we uncover God's story woven through our own. I am Ashley Sears, and I am so grateful you're here. Today, I'm joined by Kate Wilson, the founder and executive director of Foster and Heart, a Boise-based nonprofit dedicated to supporting children in foster care and the families who care for them. After becoming a foster mom herself and eventually adopting 5 children, Kate saw firsthand the urgent need for safe, nurturing spaces for sibling sets entering the foster care system. The vision led to creation of Foster and Heart, including transition homes that help keep sibling groups together while they await placement with foster families. Kate is passionate and advocates for vulnerable children and works tirelessly to build a community where every child feels seen, loved, and valued. Thank you so much for being here, Kate.
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
So you were a Stories Unveiled speaker in 2004, I believe.
It's been that long?
Yeah,
Wow.
2004. And you shared your incredible journey of just so many things. But I really want to, we'll go back, but I really want to talk about, you are the founder of Foster and Heart,
yes,
which is a Boise-based nonprofit here in the Boise area that deals in foster care. Deals with foster kids. And so we'll kind of go backwards a little bit, but I want to dive into, because I actually love talking to you about Foster and Heart, because your passion for it is so contagious, and like, every time I talk to you about it, it feels like you're talking about it for the very first time, and I'm hearing about it for the very first time, even though you talk about it all the time. Your life probably revolves around it.
Yes.
But I want to hear about Foster and Heart, and I want to hear about why.
Yes.
Why did you start it?
Well, I love talking about foster care. I love sharing about Foster and Heart. I always say I eat, sleep, and breathe foster care and adoption.
Adoption, yes.
I have a heart for adoption. So it all started, at a very young age, God gave me a heart for adoption. I didn't know, how God plants these little heart's desires in us, and you don't know how it's going to unfold.
And not really, I'm sorry to interrupt, but not really because of experience, right?
I just had met a girl on the playground in first grade, and she was adopted, and it literally just sparked in me this desire, and I just was so intrigued by it that I knew I wanted it to be part of my story one day. And so, as most people think, you have to, grow up, get married, and then I was like, I wanted to adopt first before having biological kids. And I think that was so out of the norm. People thought that was so crazy. But I just knew God had put that in my heart. And I always said, for me, if I didn't adopt, it would be a dream unfulfilled. And so,
not necessarily having biological.
No, I never dreamed of being pregnant, never, all those things like most girls grow up thinking.
Get married, have biological children.
Never dreamed of that. I did dream of getting married. Okay? But I wanted to go adopt. I always loved that picture of a child being placed in your arms, and it wasn't that it grew in me. It was that God designed that baby for me to be their mom, and I just thought it was the most beautiful thing ever. And so I, walked the process. I was a kids pastor at my church. I gave my life to Jesus, and then I became a kids pastor. And, just believing that God was going to make it unfold like everyone else. And about 38 years old, I was like, okay, I don't think my life is meant to be like everyone else. And there's a different story here. And so I pursued foster care.
Yeah.
And I remember even people, well-intended Christians, people saying, well, are you sure you should do that, And I just felt like, okay.
Why? Because you were a single woman?
Because I was a single woman, yeah. And even people told me, foster children need dads. And I'm like, I'm not agreeing with you. Yes, they do. But I knew that God had put it in my heart. And I just felt like my part is to be obedient to what God was putting on my heart and take that step. And so I signed up to become a foster parent. And
single people do it all the time.
All the time.
I actually know a handful of single people who are foster parents.
And now I do, but like 8 years ago when I started it, I did not know anybody. And now we've really created this even incredible community on social media. That's the beauty of, there's, so many things that people would say is against social media, but the beauty of it is the networking, connection, and community that you create on social media. And so I have a lot of single moms that are foster parents and adoptive parents. And so that's been really cool. But when I signed up in 2018, I had no idea. Like, I wanted to foster one child. And
you'll find out why that's funny later.
Yeah, so I signed up to foster one child, and 6 months later, I got a call for one child. And when I went to pick her up, I saw all these little children come out of this van. I remember asking the caseworker, I was like, okay, which one is mine that I'm taking home? And she points to this 2-year-old little girl. And for me, I mean, like a lot of people in our community, or just people who are not familiar with foster care, you don't realize that siblings are separated in foster care. And actually 75% of siblings that enter foster care are separated the first evening that they come into care, or that first day.
So they're taken from their family.
So they're removed from their family, yes.
And then they are split.
Most of the time, because if you look at even, I'll get down.
Yeah.
I have a large sibling group that I ended up having, come into my home, and people aren't prepared for, 3 kids, 4 kids, 5 kids, 6 kids. Yes, exactly. So I had one bed ready for one child.
Yeah.
And so when I met them, my heart instantly burst for them. And I just was like, okay, I have to do something to bring them back together. And so I fought for, a good 9 months, and one by one, they started moving in with me. And I went from just the 2-year-old little girl to then I got her older brother, her little sister. And then about 5 or 6 months down the road, I got their little brother. And then 3 weeks later, I got a baby that was 4 months old that birth mom had.
All siblings.
All biological siblings, yes.
5.
Yes. So when I got all 5 of them, I know it sounds crazy. And people always ask me, how did you do this? I was like, I was living my dream. This is what I wanted for so long in my life. My youngest was 4 months old, and my oldest was 4 years old. So they were babies. And just get that visual of, these are not, teenagers being split up. These are babies who are, bonded together because of what they'd experienced, obviously bonded together because they're siblings, and then you remove them, and you can't even explain it to them.
Because they're too young.
They don't understand what's going on. And going back to that first night, I picked up my 2-year-old daughter, driving away, and her having that realization that she was leaving behind her siblings broke my heart. And that's why I was like, I have to fight to get them together.
And so, because you say your 2-year-old daughter, and you one by one got each of the siblings, and so now you have the 5, and we're jumping way ahead, but fast forward however many years, they're yours.
1 year later, I was blessed to become their forever mama and adopted them. And so I always say, that's when the weight had lifted. Because when you're in the foster care world, there's just so many ups and downs. You don't know what's happening, and when that adoption finally happened, it was like, okay, there's a bigger crisis going on here than just what's happening in my home at the time. And getting these sibling groups back together, I wanted to help more kids so that it didn't happen to any of them. And backtracking, I don't know when we're... But backtracking, the first night I had all 5 of them in my home. That very first night was the first night they all slept through the night. Wow. And I remember, this is a tragedy to children. This should not be happening. They should not be separated for no fault of their own. Yeah. And so that's why I decided to start Foster and Heart.
And so the main goal when you started Foster and Heart, because it's kind of evolved.
It has definitely evolved.
Yeah, which is
so much going on. Yeah.
But your original plan was to create a ministry or create this organization to keep sibling sets together.
Yeah.
Create an environment or a scenario in which sibling sets enter the system, and whatever family can't take all of them, that you, in whatever way that looked like, would take them in. So the siblings could at least stay together.
Yes.
Talk to me about what that looks like, because you're still doing that.
Absolutely, yes.
And more.
Yeah, so our original, I remember speaking to the caseworker over my 5, and I said, you know what you guys need? You need a safe house for siblings to go to when they initially come into care. And she just kind of flippantly said, you should do it. And so that's where that came from.
Well, that's funny because you are a leader, obviously. You are a leader. I've been in leadership. You've been in pastoral work. Like, we both have worked in full-time ministry at churches and all of the things. And can I just tell you, and you probably feel the same way, is that anytime somebody comes to you and says to the leader, says, you know what you should do?
Yeah, exactly.
You should do X, Y, and Z. The very next thing out of my mouth was always, that sounds like a great job for you.
Exactly. You see the need,
and she did that.
Fill it. Yes. And so that's basically I think honestly, just even putting it back on me gave me that like boldness, and like I felt like I could do this. You're right. The department has so much going on, and as a Christian, you know, I want to come alongside and help support them and bring the gospel. And like I just really felt like this was what God was calling us to do. And you know, the Bible says that Jesus says the children are the pride and joy of the kingdom. And so I just always knew that God was going to favor us as we stepped out to create safe housing for sibling groups in foster care.
Take care of the widows and the orphans.
Yep.
And I mean, you're literally the hands and feet of Jesus.
I'm so honored that I get to do this. Like every day, I'm just like overwhelmed at the opportunity to love these children, and not only them, but also loving their biological families who also need the hope of Jesus too. And so it's been a beautiful journey. And like you said, we've evolved. Yeah. So we started with a home.
Yeah.
We then opened a second home because we had so many kids that needed housing. And we are a short-term residential home, both of them. And we're designed, you know, just be that safe place until the department can find the right home for the sibling group to go to. Yeah. Sometimes that's 2 kids, sometimes that's 6 kids. It just all depends. But the goal is to keep them together so they don't have to go through that trauma of ever being separated. And then opening these homes, we realized, wait, all these kids are coming through our doors with just the clothes on that they have. And sometimes not even shoes, sometimes not even clothes. We've had babies come through with just diapers. And so we launched the Essentials Project. And so that is not only for our kids in our residential homes, but any foster home can text us here in the Boise area. They can reach out to us, give us some, you know, likes, dislikes, sizes of the child, and we deliver a duffel bag to their front door, all brand new items. And, you know, we get to work with amazing people who help us fill our warehouse so that when we get that text or that call, we can fill it and drop it off immediately to them.
So you have a warehouse.
We have a warehouse.
That is stocked full of brand new items, whether it's
stocked
backpacks for school supplies, but like underwear, socks, t-shirts, shorts, clothing, things for the seasons, shoes, like as far as like coats, mittens.
And then we have comfort items like blankets, stuffies. Then we have items that we all say that bring kids joy. Yeah. So toys or fidgets or squishies or squishmallow, like all the things that,
books,
things
like
and
that.
It's so cool to see a child open up the bag and just like freak out that they got something that they've never had before. Water bottles, you know? A lot of kids go to school and all their peers have these water bottles, and people will donate those really nice Odwalla water bottles or the trendy, I'm trying to keep it up.
Stanleys and all the
Stanleys, and then we get to put that in a bag, and a child gets to open up the bag and get a brand new, a heart's desire. We get to meet their heart's desire as well.
How amazing.
Yes.
That you just get to do that. And you have a team of people.
Amazing. I could not do this without my incredible team. And when I always like to share this too, because when I first started it, I'm like one of those people that reflects on I'm not good at this, or I'm not good at this. I don't think like, oh, I'm so good at all these things, I know what I am good at, but I also am aware of the things I'm not, and I'm not administrative. And so I felt like when I I was like, Lord, but I'm not good at this. He's like, I will bring the people to do what you can't do what you can do. And so that's what he's done. My team is built of all these amazing women who do what I can't do, and we make a really beautiful unit together.
I love that.
Yes.
So you have these homes. Do you have like house parents or?
We don't. So it's ran by 24/7 residential staff. So even our graveyard is up all night. They're ready to meet the needs of the kids if they need, anything in the night, or if we get calls, because a lot of times kids come in the middle of the night. Yeah. And so we're up, we're ready, we're available to meet the needs of children in our community.
That's amazing.
And our kids come in and we create this really good atmosphere where they feel loved, seen, and supported, and we get to meet their needs. So even like we just had a young girl turn 18, and she said, she had told somebody, I really want an Apple Watch. And so I was like, go get her that Apple Watch. We want to make sure that she not only feels loved by us, but by the Lord, and she gets those heart's desires met.
So talk to me about, because Foster and Heart your heart is faith. Your heart is Jesus, and to be the hands and feet of Jesus, and to share Jesus with any kid that comes across your path at the very least. Talk to me though about, because you do work with the Department of Health and Welfare, right? Which is, it's a state program, right? So it's not faith-based. And you bring these duffels to any foster family that texts you in the Treasure Valley, in the Boise area, who not all of them are going to be believers or Christians, and these kids are likely not coming from a faith background. So what does that look like for you to have a team that is the hands and feet of Jesus and walking that line of like being in a secular world, and industry is not the right word, but in this world of fostering.
Like an entity. Well, my view is, Jesus never forced himself on anybody. And so we invite the children in a safe place. And I always say, like, our kids are looking for hope and needing hope. And who's the hope of the world? Jesus. We don't have to be pushy. We just welcome them in and invite them. And we get to see our kids just receive the love of Jesus and open up their hearts to Jesus. And it's been a beautiful thing. We, work well with the department. They know who we are. They know we're a faith-based organization. But again, we don't force it on anybody. But what we've seen is, especially, our older kids who are at the point where they are seeking truth and hope. We see them give their life to Jesus. We see them get baptized. We even recently had one of the girls' biological moms come get baptized. And I realized we really are the hands and feet of Jesus to a broken world. And ultimately, foster care is about reunification. So we want happy, healthy, whole families. And I just am honored to be a part of even watching a family become whole again.
That's amazing.
Yes.
So you have 5. Do you only have 5 still?
I only have 5 right now.
Okay.
But I am fostering. Yes.
You are still a foster mom.
Yep.
And so you do still have kids, because now now you have 5 that are legally yours.
Yep.
But you still have some that come and go. And you're not just running this organization, you are still actively a foster parent. It
is so deep in my heart that I don't think I could ever give it up. It's just something that I know that God has called me to, and I love the opportunity to just be a safe place for a child.
Yeah. So with all of the endeavors that Foster and Heart has done in the foster world, you also said that you have a heart for adoption.
Yes.
So tell me about kind of this new adventure that the Lord has put on your heart and put in front of you, that it's so funny, because I feel like every time I see you or talk to you, there's something new that's coming, but it's amazing. And you just are the type of person that's like, well, if the Lord opens the door, like, this is what the Lord put on my heart, this is the door that's open, so I'm just going to walk through it. You just keep walking through doors.
That's what I just feel like that's my responsibility. If there's a door open, I walk through it, and if God shuts the door, I'm okay with it too. And I just go back to whatever God is placed right in front of me. And so I have always had a heart for adoption. And 19 years ago, my cousin married a youth pastor from here, Idaho. And I was living in Seattle, and our pastor back home was like, I think you should go with her and just support her, just be there for her. It's a big transition becoming a pastor's wife in a church. And so I decided to come here, and I was like praying about it, and I felt like God put on my heart an adoption agency. So this is how far back to start an adoption agency.
Before Foster and Heart.
Before I even fostered. So these have been intertwined for a while. In 2020 is when, I adopted my children, and my pastor even was like, I think, was working on this idea of the home. And then my pastor at my church said, I think you should open an adoption agency. So I know. So I put together this plan and went to present it to him, and he got COVID. So it pushed us back 30 days. In that 30 days, God spoke to me and said, focus on foster care first, and then adoption will come. And so we decided to pursue, opening the homes first. And then this adoption agency has always been a part of it.
Yeah.
So then we just officially felt like the release from the Lord to pursue this adoption agency. And our heart really is to take the profit out of adoption, come alongside women who have chosen life and have chosen to place their babies for adoption, support them in the process, but also work with Christian families who are wanting to adopt, but taking out that obstacle of this huge amount of money that you have to pay to adopt. Adoption does cost money.
Yes.
I just want everybody to know that. Of course. But we as an agency want to limit that and try to work with our families, even find resources where they can get funding, grants, and all that stuff. Because the reality is there is babies out there that need homes, and we want to be able to be a part. And just what an honor it is to be a part of that story of helping God build his families. So in January we launched.
January of 26?
Yes, this year.
Okay.
We just launched. We onboarded. We had 10 families come on board where we just did our orientation with our next 10 families. And again, my heart is not that I have 100 families waiting on our, website to get placed with babies. I want to work intentionally with each family and help guide them and also obviously trust the Lord to lead them where they're supposed to go to the baby that God has for them.
Yeah.
And then again, wrap ourselves around that birth mother. Break that stereotype of, everyone always says, oh, was she on drugs or da-da-da. And I'm like, she's a hero. I want you to know she chose the most sacrificial decision to give life to a baby. Only she could give it. And I want to be like, come around her and support her in that decision and make sure that her needs are met as well.
That's so beautiful, especially because, and this is always a very touchy subject when you talk about pro-life, pro-choice, all of the things, right? And you said that for a birth mom to choose life, to keep the baby and carry to term, to have it, regardless of what the decision is after that. Yeah. And so for this, it would be to come alongside the birth mom if she chooses adoption to give that baby up. So you're placing this child in a home where they know they are loved and wanted, and the birth mom knows that they aren't just discarded because they gave life and then to be an afterthought, hero, sacrificial, like you made a very selfless decision to do this. And truly that womb to tomb mentality of you are just as important as this life that you're carrying. And I just think that's so beautiful that you come alongside her too.
Yeah, my heart is really just financial support even for the birth mom. After she gives birth, you're expected to go back to work.
Yeah.
And where a typical situation, a woman gives birth, she has maternity leave and she gets to, spend time with her baby. Well, I want to support this birth mom to grieve the process as well, not feel the stress to have to go right back into the reality of life, but let her soak up in that, opportunity to heal.
Well, that's just a physical feat in and of itself, regardless of how, it happened. That's just a physical healing and recovery. But like you said, the emotional and just psychological and emotional toll that takes. You just made this huge decision. And sometimes just, like you said, expected to go right back to work and not deal with the decision. And so it's like a blip on the screen. You just did this thing, now jump right back into
you're
life.
Just back to reality. Happened. But no, we want to wrap around, support them, and make sure that they feel seen, loved by not only our organization, but by Jesus as well. Again, going back to the hands and feet of Jesus, that's what I want our organization always to represent.
So you work with Christian couples who want to adopt, regardless of what their story is and why, but who want to adopt.
Yep.
I love that.
Yeah, some already have kids but want to adopt. Like me, just having God place that on your heart at a young age. Some people come to adoption maybe through infertility or whatever reason it is, but I just really believe God's timing is perfect and God has a perfect plan in everything. And so wherever they're at, but when we pick our families, we intentionally pray over the ones that we're going to work with. And I really am like, God, lead us to the ones that you have for us right now. Maybe someone's down the road that we're going to work with them, but right now, what 10 families do you have for us, or what 20 families do you have for us? And it's really cool to see like just God working out all the details of that as well.
Yeah. So have you had any successful adoptions? Like
Not yet.
Okay,
We did almost have an adoption, and it ended up not going through, but that is also part of the process. And again, we could see God's hand in that even as well, because you're like, okay, if God didn't want that to happen, he wasn't going to allow it to happen. And if there's another baby meant for that family, we believe that that's why God didn't allow it to happen. I have a good friend of mine who had an adoption fail, and then about 3 months later, they got their son. And you can look at that now, hindsight's 2020, look at it like, well, thank God it didn't happen, because they wouldn't have their son. So even looking at this right now, like, yes, it's hard to walk through emotional, but you're also like, but I trust you, God.
Yeah.
So whatever your plan is, we trust you, and we believe that you're going to work out all the details.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
So I want to back up. You said when you were in first grade, you were on the playground and God put that passion in your heart, and you just knew carrying on, right?
Always knew.
So did you grow up a Christian? Did you grow up?
That's a very good question. Yes, I did. But then my parents got divorced. And so then I kind of would have always said I'm a Christian, but I had no relationship with Jesus. So yes, as a child, I did. And then my teenage years, I wasn't living for Jesus, and then recommitted my life at 21.
At 21.
Yeah.
Okay. And I just want to, you mentioned it. And so I want to revisit it for all the single people out there.
Oh yes. Let's talk singleness.
Yes.
Yeah.
So because that's a part of your story.
Yeah.
Is singleness. It's a big part of your story, And when you shared at Stories Unveiled, it's part of what you talked about.
Yeah.
But, the natural progression, especially in the church, I'll use Big C church, is marriage, children. This is what we look at as kind of the peak of the perfect family or whatever. And,
exactly.
And God has a perfect plan for every person, and it's sometimes not children, and it's sometimes not marriage, and it's sometimes not what we expect. But you walked through this without having a husband and being in the church. And so I want to know, did you struggle?
Oh, yes.
With not being married, and did you get pushback on that? You had said people were like, oh, but kids need their dad, which is not untrue. Yeah,
it's not untrue. And I support, dads are wonderful.
Right.
Should be in the home. We need dads in our life, all those things.
Absolutely. And because we do also live in a broken world, but what's so amazing is that you point all these kids to Jesus. Yeah. And where whatever earthly father deficit, we'll say, could be, they have a heavenly father that loves them so much. And being in your home is that's where they're going to learn that, right? But talk to me about just the struggle that you had in reconciling, Lord, because you said, I didn't ever really dream about being pregnant or having a baby, but I did dream about being married.
Yes, I didn't picture doing this on my own.
Yeah.
I do think I think when you're in the church, and I worked in a church.
Yeah.
And it wasn't anybody, it's your own personal too, that you put pressure on yourself, or feeling like I'm behind in life, or the enemy comes and tells you you're not worthy, you're not lovable, no one's going to choose you, all the things that I felt even, working in the church. And I love Jesus, and I read his word, but the enemy knows where to attack you. And so previous to becoming a foster mom, I kind of ventured out in my, dating life, and I just kind of felt like I had to take it in control. God wasn't
the bull by the horns.
Yes,
and you're all right, Lord,
God is not coming through for me, is how I viewed it. Obviously, I've come a long way from that.
Yeah.
And I just felt like if he's not going to do it, I'm going to have to figure it out. So, as any good Christian girl would do, I got on Tinder. I didn't know. I had no clue. It was just so I got on, and I kind of joke, but also I see God preparing me in this season. It was about a 2-year period where I call it my dark years because I was living for the Lord. I was working in a church, and I kind of fell off, and I just felt forgotten, and feeling forgotten can really make you make horrible decisions in life, and turn your back on who God has called you to be. I kind of not fully, I still love Jesus, but I was definitely not living for him, because I felt like I had to take it into control. But the goodness of God, he used that to put me in a place where I am. Because I remember getting to the end of that 2 years and just crying out. Here I was still like single. I was even more broken than I was 2 years previously. And I had things that had happened that just made me feel even more worthless.
Yeah.
And so I got to the end of that 2 years and I said, God, what do you want from me? What do you have for me? And I heard the voice of the Lord say, you already know. And that is when I knew. I'd been talking about becoming a foster parent for years, that I needed to pursue foster care. And so, yes, it's hard, especially when I am one of the, I think I'm the only one I know my age that's single, and I'm 46. So do I want marriage? Absolutely. But I have learned to be content where God has me, while still contending for the promises and the heart's desires and even the desires that God has put in my heart to happen. And so I can look back now and realize I would not be where I was if my life had turned out like everyone else, had I gotten married, had I, maybe walked the process or the path that I thought I was supposed to, because I don't really know many men that would say yes to 5 siblings.
I'm sure there's someone out there.
But at the time, what, you're taking on 5 siblings, so I always joke too, I had no one to ask permission from. I could just do it. Yeah. So every time I was like, I'll take him. It was my capacity. I could decide what I could handle. And so taking on another one of her siblings was not a big deal to me, because I'm like, yes, this is what I'm made to do. So I think now, I know now I see the goodness of God, and, him keeping me single was for a purpose and a reason. And I'm so grateful for it now. Yeah. So all that to say, be, content in this while still believing and contending that God is going to come through with that man one day.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. A man that loves Jesus and loves children. And
well, and it also, as a single mom, it makes you so much. I don't have time to waste, so I don't have time to have heartbreak. I'm just like, I would not put anybody around my kids that is not worthy to be around them. I view them like they deserve the best. Sometimes it's hard to look at yourself and be like, I deserve the best. But I can look at my kids and say, they deserve the best, therefore I will not settle for anything less than the best. So, yeah.
It's almost like the Lord put these kids in your life to help with discernment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you will protect them at all costs.
I would do anything for them. So,
and I think you're right. There's so much wisdom in. Sometimes it's hard for us to think that we are valuable enough to have X, Y, and Z, right? And it's like we make concessions. I know I did, but you make concessions sometimes when it's just you at stake, right? And it's like, well, you might not love Jesus a lot, or he doesn't go to church, but he says that he's a Christian, or all the things that we are willing to compromise in relationships to just make it work, right? Or to just, and you're like, I don't have time for that. I will protect these kids, and so therefore,
absolutely,
it's almost like the Lord was like, here,
your story's gonna be different. I also think too, the reason I'm laughing is because I was like, a lot of people I think get into relationships out of loneliness. I am not lonely.
You're like,
at
I
all.
Always have
I am never
around.
lonely, so it's just not it doesn't tempt me to jump into a relationship out of loneliness. So yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah. Well, so tell me about, Foster and Heart does an annual gala.
Yes.
And you just had it May of this year, 2026.
Yep. Just a couple weeks ago.
The most amazing from what I heard that this year God moved
I can't even, the Bible says exceedingly abundantly above all that you could ask, think, or imagine. And that's what he did. And it was just, I get so emotional because, there's a verse that says, James 1:27, true religion is to care for the orphan and the widow. And there's one version that says, true religion in the sight of God the Father is this, to visit, help, and care for the orphan and widow. And obviously, not all foster children are orphaned, but they are vulnerable. And so I do believe that obviously encompasses foster children. So for me, when I see people walk in, they might not be opening up their homes to become foster parents, but they're doing their part to make a difference. And we're all called to do something. And so it's just the most beautiful thing to see people from all walks of life come in and get excited about championing on Foster and Heart as a whole, but also donating to give to make sure the needs of children are met here in our community.
Yeah.
And so we have like paddle raises, people, I'll give 10,000 to that. We had flower bouquets. I think one of them went for $7,500. I mean, it was like,
that's wild.
I'm sitting there like, this is unreal. But the people who are giving the money might not be taking kids in their home, but they're doing their part to make sure that kids' needs are met and they feel seen, valued, and loved. And it was beautiful.
Because while you have retail stores that come alongside you and donate things, and you have lots of partners in the way of donations that do things for you. Your ministry, both whether it's the adoption agency, like you said, because adoption costs money, or this foster care, this whole thing that you have, the partnership that you have with the state and everything you do with Foster and Heart isn't free.
No.
Even if people give donations, like retailers give specific donations, because part of the integrity of your ministry is new, right?
Yep.
It's not
It has
used.
to
You're not
be
a
new.
thrift store. You're not, you want to give these kids, you want to allow them to feel the integrity of having new
Pop
things.
that tag, feel that value and worth.
I mean, that's something I think every child, every person really loves, right? To be able to have like new, this is mine.
I know. Yes.
I didn't get this
I love
secondhand
shopping
from
too.
somebody
Yes.
else. And so they get that. So that's not free.
No.
People from the community aren't just donating their old things. Like it's brand new things. And so you have to shop.
Yep.
You have to have these things. And so it's like a old church that I actually used to work for. They used to say do for one, and I just think that that's
I love that.
Yeah, you just do for one because obviously you can't help everybody, and not everybody can take 1 or 5 or 8, whatever children into their home. Not everybody is able to do X, Y, and Z, but if everybody in the community plays their part.
Everybody playing their part.
And they're able to give what God has blessed them with, whatever that is, time, talent, treasures, right? Then it all comes together to be able to help the vulnerable.
Exactly.
And
yes.
I just love that.
I love that too. It reminds me of that verse, and I'm going to butcher it, but it's like, don't look at the eye. The hand doesn't look at the foot and is envious, or the eye doesn't look at the nose, whatever it is.
And it's talking about the body of Christ.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people
we're all important. We all are needed. But when you come together, we make and we can impact more. We're all working together to further the kingdom of God and impact more. So that's what we saw at the gala. It was beautiful.
That's amazing. So you do that every year?
Every year. So yes, our next one is May 1st.
Of
2027, which I know it seems like, I'm like, oh my gosh, we're already getting around. But we do have another fundraising event coming up. I'll share that.
Yeah. Yes, depending on when this airs and when they
October 10th.
Yeah, October 10th of 2026.
Of 2026, we're doing our very first, it's called the Heart and Soul Fun Run. And so basically, our organization, when someone donates $1, it goes to what they donate to. So all that money we raise at the gala, it's going to foster children. So our Heart and Soul Fun Run is raising money for adoptions.
Okay.
So that we can separate, the two. Where money, if someone says, I want to give, $5,000 to duffel bags or whatever, we want to make sure it goes, we want to have integrity with our money. And what is given to us, that people know it's not going overseas, it's not going to this or that, it really is going back into the kids. So we're doing a separate 5K fun run October 10th, and I'm really excited about it. It's just going to be a big fun party. Nobody has to compete. We're just going to run a 5K, walk a 5K, I don't know, crawl a 5K, whatever you want, but we'll raise money for adoptions.
That's amazing. And where can people find that information?
If they go to fosterandheart.org, it's on there, and you'll see the Heart and Soul Fun Run.
Okay. So in the notes and the description of this episode, we will put Foster and Heart's website. Okay. We will link Foster and Heart's website.
Yes.
To get any information and any social media that you might have or whatever, to get updates. But can you tell me just, do you have anything coming up? Like any exciting new things, needs,
You mentioned earlier you're always coming up with some, and I am.
Every time I talk to you, it's like there's this new thing.
I have a problem in a good way.
Yeah.
If I see there was this. I used to be a nanny, and there was this robot movie, and it said, "See a need, fill a need." I feel like that is my life. See a need, fill a need. So one of our current needs we're seeing is a lot of our youth are turning 18 in our homes, and so they're the same. They say the same thing. I'm scared. I don't know what's going to happen. Now, Idaho did pass a law. I don't know if it's a law, but basically you can extend foster care till 23, but not all of them want to do that. So I understand. So my heart this year is I'd like to open an aging out home. There are great organizations here in the Treasure Valley that already do that, but this would be for alum. Any kid that has ever lived in our home, if they're facing a situation where they are out of housing or homelessness and they need housing, they can come back to us and request housing from us. And so, I just want to be like, once they're our kids, once they've lived in they're our kids. Like, they've lived in our home. I got to make sure. You feel a sense of
responsibility.
Yes, and I get, I'm not kidding you, so many kids reaching out to me that once we're living in our homes and still need support and help. Even if they've reunited, sometimes they still need support. And so we started something called the Life Fund. And we had a lot of money donated to that at the gala. And that is, if one of our kids reaches out and says, like recently, one of our young girls who turned 18, she said, I don't have a mattress. I just got my own place. I got a room. I said, I'll buy you a mattress. So like little things like that, like just what every child deserves or should have, we are going to help make sure those needs are met. Or we're like a mom call. So like my tire popped and I can't pay for it to be fixed. Okay. We'll pay for it. Go to Les Schwab. We'll make sure that's paid for. So just making sure that our kids are not forgotten at 18 and just left to figure it out. We're still here for them no matter what.
I love that, especially because you made a point. There are other organizations in our valley, and you have relationships with them.
Oh, they're amazing.
Right. And so this is not to slight them or to whatever. Yeah. It's just you feel a sense of responsibility to these kids who have been brought to you in this season, and you want to do what you can to take care of them through. It goes right back to that whole womb to tomb.
Amen.
Like they're a part of us now.
Yeah.
They're a part of Foster and Heart. They are
our family. Yeah.
And I'm not just going to abandon them because they turn 18 and the society and everybody else expects them to have it figured out. They've kind of had it a little rough. And so I didn't have it figured out at 18, and I wasn't in foster care.
I definitely did not have it figured out. And you had a mom call or a dad call. You can call your parents and say, hey, this happened. Yeah. Come to my rescue. And a lot of them don't have that. So even working with this other agency or entity, I guess, that is in Idaho here locally, even, my goal would be like, okay, maybe we house them for 3 months and they get into their program. Yeah. Or we house them for, whatever amount of time and they go to college. Yeah. So we're just, again, transitional. Gap. You're just we're filling the gap until they get to the long-term solution. Yeah. So...
That's amazing.
So that's my goal this year. I want to do that. And, who knows what else? Yeah. I don't know. I just...
Whatever the Lord just
when I see a need, I just want to be able to help fill it. And
especially if you see it over and over. Like, it's not just this has happened with one kid, so you're like, well, we can just help with this over here. It's when you see a pattern and you see, like, this is a persistent need. And now you've been doing this long enough where any kids that you have had, like, have aged out, right? Yeah. Like have turned 18 and
there's multiple of them that reach out. Like even I was just pulled up here and I got reached out to by a girl we had 2 years ago. Oh. So again, they are family to us. Yeah. So I just can't.
And they know that or they wouldn't reach out.
Yeah.
You're not just a cog in the wheel that was their next stopover in foster care. You aren't just, I was in this house, and this house, and this house when people as adults recall their foster, journey or whatever. You are a huge part of their story. Like a huge part of their story.
Yes. And I'm honored to be a part of their story.
That's amazing.
Yes.
I so appreciate you. And I love talking, like I said, I love talking to you. I love talking about Foster and Heart. And I know so many foster kids who are adults now. And I actually have several people in my life who are actively fostering.
Yeah.
And so I just think I just think it's amazing. I know our home church is a huge advocate for the widows and orphans and helping in foster care. I know that we partner with you. Our church partners with you in that, and it's just so amazing what you do at Christmas.
Yeah. And that's another thing. We have so many churches that come around and support us. Events, Christmas. We do deliver Christmas presents to all the kids. It's not just us. It's literally the church as a whole coming together to positively impact vulnerable children. So I'm grateful for all the partnerships and just the path that God has put us on. And, a lot of times people say to me, I wanted to do something, but I didn't know what to do or how to get involved. And we're just kind of like that middle person. You want to do something? We'll make sure that child's taken care of through what you wanted to do. So.
Yeah, that actually is a really great segue, because the last thing that I'll ask is for anybody listening to this who's like, I would help, but I'm not necessarily called to open my home, or maybe they are and they don't even know. Because I know that just stepping into the foster care system can feel very overwhelming. Yeah. What would you say to a person, whether they're single or a couple who just has a heart for Jesus and wants to step into this?
I think dip your toes in any way. If you're not here locally, I would find an organization where you are that allows volunteers to come in and just meet the children. When you take a number, a statistic, and you see their face and their name, it changes everything. And you realize I can do anything that God's called me to do because there's a child that needs me. And so I think a lot of people think, well, I don't have this figured out. It doesn't matter. God will give you what you need to help make a difference in that child's life. But I think taking that from, 400,000 foster kids across the nation to that 1 or that 2 or that 3, that you can make a difference in their life. And that could be by opening up your home, or it could be by just being an extra person in their life that loves them, supports them, and sees them. Yeah. So find an organization locally where you live and do that. Or if they want to, they can come volunteer with us. We have an event coming up August 7th, where we're partnering with Rock Harbor Church. Okay. And it's going to be huge. It's going to be awesome. If you want to get involved, go to fosterandheart.org. There's a volunteer tab they can click, and then we'll reach out to them with more information.
That's amazing. And lots of churches in the Valley do this. So if you don't, go to Rock Harbor, for those that live here in the Treasure Valley, there are lots of opportunities to help. And then, like you said, is your website up to date enough that volunteer opportunities are just there?
Yep. So they can go on that and see all the volunteer opportunities.
Thank you for your time and just...
Thank you. Yeah. It's so always wonderful talking to you.
Yeah.
And I love sharing, so...
Well, you can tell, and I'm thankful that God put that in your heart and that you've had the wherewithal to walk in obedience in just the next right thing and the next door that's open.
Amen. Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us for today's conversation on the Stories Unveiled podcast. We would love it if you would leave us a rating or review. If you would like to learn more about Stories Unveiled and our events, go to storiesunveiledconference.com or follow us on Facebook or Instagram at storiesunveiled_. The Stories Unveiled podcast is created in partnership with KTSY and Barefoot Media Ministries. For more encouragement and other podcasts, visit ktsy.org. Have an incredible day and go live unveiled.
I should have died probably 3 times. When I asked the Lord on September 12th, you spared me, 3,000 other people were not spared. And I don't need to know why. What do you want me to do with this? It was as if I just heard this answer in my prayer. He said, just let me use you.